that? Alright, guys. So, make it better. Remember, na, 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 so you can try to make it better. So let me just turn on
Bluetooth mode.
sorry. Command. Okay, back to the podcast. So I have to what is this? Oh my gosh, is it actually live on my channel? No way. Videos, shorts, live. Hello po, Jimmy Makaraek. Yes. Hi po, Arnold Apostol. Magandang umaga. Umaga na po. Yes. So, continue ko lang po yung podcast kanina po na pinakinggan ko. Hello po, BJ Brazos.
Depression looks like a condition analogous to an excess of pain.
So I'm watching po Keto and Carnivore, Schizophrenia, Depression, Cancer, Dr. Chris Palmer. Kasi parang natututunan dito po. Hello, Boss Lavi. 21. May gagawin din po ako. Paperwork. Okay. Musta kayo dyan? What country? Ano po? Taga saan po kayo? Where are you from po?
Now, I had clients who were in that condition. But then imagine that those broke into two classes. I have the odd client
Nag-live po
who,
kasi ako
by all
kanina. May nag-comment po kanina about depression, ganun.
had fine life,
Tapos, sinabi ko lang na
were reasonably healthy, apart from
yung
depression.
nakakatulong yung mag-exercise at
Marriage, you had friends that they liked, and
kumain ng healthy food. Healthy foods. Yes.
So, for example, they may have thought that they were now so useless and contemptible that no one like their wife could possibly love them, that they were, a burden to their family. But they still had tight family relationships. They often had careers that were well developed and doing fine. They were about as educated as
Hello
they
po.
didn't necessarily have any
Watching from
substance use
Japan.
disorders.
Ganda
get
naman po
connect to
nung
things
Japan.
outside of work.
Sana makapunta din ako someday.
So
Like,
that's one category. Now, the other category
I think one of the best places po to live is in Japan. Like,
no relationships, no
um,
stable marriage, they have no
mga,
friends, they have no job,
yung mga
they have
tao,
their
napaka
educational history was fragmented
tagal
at best,
na,
they have no plan for
na,
they didn't have a life.
yung mataas yung ano nila,
Now, both
lifespan,
of them were
because
miserable, and maybe even they
sa environment ng Japan napakalinis, tapos
But the first group of
high-tech
people
at
with a
healthy
functional
yung
life
mga
is
tao.
very much unlike the second group. Now, what I noticed,
Hello
and
po,
I've never found any
Turking na,
literature
Sir
directly
Turking
pertaining to
na,
this, maybe you know
magandang
some. I
umaga.
found in my practice that if I recommended to those clients, the ones who had a functional life, that they tried antidepressants, it was often likely to have
Nakikinig lang po ako sa podcast ni Dr. Jordan P. Peterson at Dr. Chris Palmer. Marami po kasing natututunan dito.
Generally speaking, not a very effective treatment. Now, and logically, because if all those things were
Tapos,
absent, the
may
mere
ginagawa din
offering of
akong
biochemical treatment wasn't going to
certification
provide someone
na
with no partner with
parang
a highly functional marriage. So, and I think in that
ano lang to,
differentiation, we
parang
also see a distinction between the
para sa work
biological,
namin.
that would be what was
But
hypothetically
maka-answer
related to
kami.
people's functional lives, and the conceptual, because the absence of the ability to go about forming all these relationships, say, pursue all those pathways theoretically. So the first thing I'd like to ask you is for your general thoughts about that diagnostic approach to distinguishing between the biological and the so-called psychological, and then how you go about doing that, because you already pointed out that you accept the distinction between biological mental illness, let's say, and conceptual disarray, something like that, or lack of skills.
Yeah, so I think you just did a great job of articulating that framework that I just outlined, that there are some people who have brain disorders. Their brains are doing things that don't make sense. They don't make common sense. The first person that you described, or that first category of people you described, it doesn't make sense that person's depressed. They've got a good life. Everything's going well for them. And they will often even say that. They will say, I don't know what's wrong with me, doctor. I don't know what's wrong with me. My wife loves me. My kids love me. I have a good job. We finally saved up enough money to get that vacation home that we wanted. I just got a promotion at work. By all intents and purposes, I should be happy, and I am miserable and I feel like a burden and I don't know what's wrong with me. Please help me. I would argue that person very likely has a brain disorder. The pathways that are hardwired in the brain to trigger the depression response are malfunctioning. They are misfiring. They are causing the sensations and all of the experiences and perceptions of depression when they shouldn't be. And here's an easy analogy. So there's, all humans will experience pain. Pain is a normal human experience. If we injure ourselves, we will feel pain. If we get surgery, we may have prolonged and extensive pain. Those are not disorders. They cause suffering, and people often want help for that, and people often want treatment. They might even take pills for it, or they might need physical therapy or something else. So it's not that we don't treat pain. It's not that they don't have a pain disorder. And then there are other people who have pain disorders. Their pain system is malfunctioning and causing the sensation of pain when there's no clear, good reason for pain. So that gives us a framework of, normal and extreme, like if you get surgery, you may have extreme pain, but those aren't disorders. And then somebody who's got a pain disorder where they have chronic, unrelenting pain for no good reason. Their pain system is malfunctioning. And so that first category of person, I would say their brain, the networks that cause all of the different experiences
for
of depression,
today,
those networks are malfunctioning.
I
They are
ate
either
breakfast
overactive or underactive, depending on what symptoms we're looking at.
and dinner.
They've got a malfunctioning brain
So should I
that
eat
is
more?
causing
Maybe
the
not.
experience of depression. The second
Don't feel
category
so
that you mentioned, the
hungry.
person whose life is just a tragic mess. They have
Hello,
they've never
how are
had
you there,
anything good
guys?
going for them. They don't know
Welcome
how
to my
lead
life.
a good life. They don't know how
Welcome
to
to
take care
my
of themselves,
life.
how to have good, positive relationships. Maybe they have no purpose in life. Those people will, in fact, experience depression. And if they don't experience depression, that in and of itself is a disorder. Anybody in that circumstance should, in fact, be depressed. The human brain is hardwired to make that person depressed because the human brain is trying to get that person to get a life, to integrate themselves into society so that their tribe, so that other humans actually accept them, integrate them into the culture or the tribe or whatever we want to think about it. And so that creates sick, he's healthy. I would argue that person very likely has a brain disorder. The pathways that are hardwired in the brain to trigger the depression response are malfunctioning. They are misfiring. They are causing the sensations and all of the experiences and perceptions of depression when they shouldn't be. And here's an easy analogy. So there's, all humans will experience pain. Pain is a normal human experience. If we injure ourselves, we will feel pain. If we get surgery, we may have prolonged and extensive pain. Those are not disorders. They cause suffering, and people often want help for that, and people often want treatment. They might even take pills for it, or they might need physical therapy or something else. So it's not that we don't treat pain.
So I'm
It's
reading,
not
guys.
that they don't have a
Reading
pain
this.
disorder. And then there are other people who have
It's
pain
like a
disorders. Their pain
presentation
system
about
is malfunctioning and
teen-
causing the sensation of pain
teenagers.
when there's no clear, good reason for pain. So that gives us a framework of, normal and extreme, like if you get surgery, you may have extreme pain, but those aren't disorders. And then somebody who's got a pain disorder where they have chronic, unrelenting pain for no good reason. Their pain system is malfunctioning. And so that first category of person, I would say their brain, the networks that cause all of the different experiences of depression, those networks are malfunctioning. that they are either overactive or underactive, depending on what symptoms we're looking at, but they've got a malfunctioning brain that is causing the experience of depression. The second category that you mentioned, the person whose life is just a tragic mess. They've never had anything good going for them. They don't know how to create a good life. They don't know how to take care of themselves, how to have good, positive relationships. Maybe they have no purpose in life. Those people will, in fact, experience depression. And if they don't experience depression, that in and of itself is a disorder. Anybody in that circumstance should,
Right.
in fact, be depressed. The
No.
human brain is hardwired to make
So
that
hard to be
person
depressed.
because the
Gosh.
human brain is trying to get that person
But
to get a life.
He
To
said
integrate
that
themselves into society.
all people go
so
through
that
it,
their tribe, so that
but
other
some
humans
just go
actually
through it
accept
differently.
them, integrate them into the culture or the tribe or
Like
whatever
so
we wanna
hard,
think
but
about
it just keep
And,
going.
and that creates safety.
Do what you
That
love.
we as humans are supposed to be connected
Do
with
what you want
others.
to do.
And that means that we are supposed to be connected not only in terms of loving relationships or work relationships, but we've got responsibilities. We've got responsibilities to ourselves and to others. And if we're not participating in that culture, in that society, that means we are an outcast. We are being shunned. We aren't integrating. There's something wrong. And those people will.
And that's a danger. It's a danger. Well, so one of the things let me ask you what you think about this. So there's a relationship between the degree to which a given brain is likely to produce serotonin and the relative social status of that person. So higher, okay, so, and this is germane biologically to the problem that you just described, because it turns out if serotonin modulates the magnitude of pain-like responses to negative circumstances, to stress, let's say, and if you're low status, which means if you're low status, you're more likely to have an exaggerated response to stress, and that can kill you across time. That's very well documented. Very high relationship between relative social status and risk for mortality. But the reason for that, and you're pointing to this, because someone might think, well, your claim that you need to be integrated within a social community is just an arbitrary claim. There's nothing based in reality about that. That's just it's just a supposition of normality, and there's no reason to assume that it's related to mental health. But the reason that's erroneous is because you are much more likely to have opportunity and to have security of the genuine sort. So that's the kind of security that can save your life. If you have a very well-developed and functioning social network, and you're very well regarded and respected and integrated within that, and as you intimated, we do have systems that perceive that and that causes pain in the absence of that, and that is definitely a contributing factor to depression. That's not some arbitrary moral presupposition. It's hardwired into the fact that we are incredibly interdependent
You could
as
eat
social
daily.
creatures. And that's so much so, this is something for everyone to think about too. We're so wired to need that social harmony and
What's
interaction
this?
that we can even punish
I
the
don't know.
most vicious and psychopathic antisocial criminals by putting them in solitary isolation. So even those guys can't do it alone. Okay, so depression can be a valid marker of
I don't know
the
what's
inability
this.
to be integrated, right? And it can become counterproductive even under those circumstances, but
Could you just put it
the
there?
condition in itself,
Yes.
just like the condition of pain, isn't an indication of pathology. So, okay, so let's talk about differential diagnosis. So, okay, so
Just
we've already
remove this
agreed, as far as
one.
I can see, that there's a difference between a physiological disorder and a more abstract or mental disorder. Now, the other thing I tried to do in my practice was to rule out the physiological before proceeding with the psychological. Okay, now you pointed to a bunch of potential contributors to the physiological. So let me list those And then maybe you can tell me
Students
if I
came
missed any,
from very
if you dispute
linguistic and
any,
cultural
and
backgrounds.
how you go
Nila.
about that diagnosis. So here's some things that can make you mentally ill, apart from the contents of your thought or perceptions. We know that depression is often associated with markers of excess in neurological activity. So if you're in a cytokine storm, you can get depressed. There's all sorts of dietary reasons that we could delve into. There's all sorts of illnesses that can produce depression as a side effect. There's an issue of adverse response to medication. It might be that you're in bad physical shape and need to exercise more, and some people are more prone to depression in the absence of exercise. There's a huge potential complication of toxin exposure, environmental and otherwise, and then there's the associated problem. Like one of the quick pathways to depression, especially if you're biologically tilted in this direction, is to drink to relative excess 3 times a week, because then you're always in alcohol withdrawal. Okay, so another thing that a good diagnostician should do is think, well, this person presents with depression, but maybe they're ill, and here's 10 things we should look at to rule that out. So tell me
What's
what you think
this?
about that and how you go about doing that when you're actually seeing your patients.
Thank you.
So I think all of the things that you mentioned are absolutely
Thank you po,
spot on.
Vivian
I think that they
Bueno.
can all play a role in the physiological brain disorder type of depression. That all of those things can result in the brain malfunctioning and producing the experience of depression when in fact the person doesn't have the psychological or social reasons to necessarily be clinically depressed. You mentioned
Bakit may
medical
mga tao
diagnoses,
dito
I
sa
think,
YouTube Live?
and that's a very broad field.
Akala ko
because
walang tao
numerous
dito.
medical conditions are associated with increased risk for depression.
Online
all the way
teacher
from
po.
neurological disorders,
How about you?
epilepsy, Alzheimer's disease, Huntington's
Kayo
disease,
po,
Parkinson's
Miss
disease,
Vivian Bueno.
to hormone imbalances, hypothyroidism or low
Online
thyroid
teacher po
hormone,
ako.
women's hormones. A lot of women experience
Yes,
mood
online teacher
changes,
naman.
mental health
Wala
symptoms
naman.
just around the
Ano
time
po,
of their
nag-start ako
menstrual
since
periods. They may have
2019, pero
significant changes around,
ano,
around
part-time
the time of
lang
pregnancy
yung
and
pag-online
immediately
teaching.
after
Kasi po,
pregnancy.
pharmacist
and they
po
can have
kasi ako.
significant changes around the time of menopause.
Tapos,
Men can
ano din,
experience similar
naging
symptoms if they
online
have low
VA din.
testosterone. So there
online
are a wide
virtual
range
assistant.
of medical conditions
Virtual
that can all
assistant.
result in the exact
Pero,
same
nag-stop ako as a
symptoms
BA kasi po,
of
hindi,
major
yung
depression.
task po, hindi ko
And
masyadong
that, in my
na-enjoy.
mind, is very curious.
Pag online
And
teaching
we,
po kasi,
in the mental health
mas
field,
na-enjoy ko yung work.
shrug that off. But what it suggests is that all of those things are somehow connecting through some common pathophysiology.
Yeah.
Now, and in
Oh,
my mind, that
28
is actually a
28 na
really
po.
important clue to solving the
28 years
puzzle of
old.
mental illness. Like, what causes mental disorders? What causes this tremendous suffering in millions and millions of people around the world? How can we develop better treatments? By recognizing that all of those
Welcome to
things
this live
must
po.
share something in common to produce the exact same constellation of symptoms, that's actually really useful information. And in my mind, the
Taga ano
common
po
thread
ako,
is that they
Negros
all
Oriental.
impact metabolism and more
Kayo po,
specifically,
from where are you
these
po?
tiny things in our cells called mitochondria.
Start off the new year with Balance of Nature fruits and veggies. They're a great way to make sure you're getting essential nutritional ingredients every single day of the new year. Balance of Nature uses an advanced cold vacuum process that encapsulates fruits and vegetables into whole food supplements without sacrificing their natural antioxidants. The capsules are completely void of additives, fillers, extracts, synthetics, pesticides, or added sugar. The only thing in Balance of Nature's fruit and veggie capsules are, well, fruits and veggies. Right now, not only will you get 35% off your first order, you'll now get a free fiber and spice supplement as well. Balance of Nature's Fiber and Spice Supplement is a revolutionary fiber drink with a unique blend of 12 spices and whole foods. There's never been an easier way to make sure you're getting your daily dose of fruits and vegetables. Experience Balance of Nature for yourself today. Go to balanceofnature.com and use promo code Jordan for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. Plus, get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code Jordan for 35% off your first preferred order, plus a free bottle of fiber and spice.
Okay, well, then let's say that's, I would be very interested in hearing much more detail about that. So, you know, because I delved into potential physiological causes for exacerbated pain sensitivity, let's say, and the entire depressive spectrum of symptoms, but not precisely on the metabolic front. So why did you, given the plethora of contributors that we've already discussed to the problem of depression and then the broader problem of mental disorder, why did you feel that concentrating on the metabolic dysfunction per se was the most useful tack to take? And maybe, so let's do two things. Why don't you tell us in some real detail what you mean by metabolic disorder, all the way down to the mitochondrial level, with perhaps an explanation of the function of mitochondria, and then tell us why you think that's particularly worthy of focus, given all the other contributors, maybe as a common final pathway even, given all the other contributors to depression.
Yeah. So right now, if you ask the leading psychiatrists and neuroscientists in the world, what exactly causes mental illness? And we can stay focused broadly on all of the mental disorders, or we can just hone in on major depression, that first category of depression that we talked about. Like they don't have a reason to be depressed psychologically or socially, and yet they're showing all of the signs and symptoms. Like, what is going on? If you ask the leading people, they will say, yeah, it's just too complicated, nobody can figure it out. What we do know are risk factors, and we talk about this biopsychosocial model of risk factors. And we say that there are
Bakit
biological
hindi ito
things,
nag-click?
neurotransmitters, hormones, genetics,
Is every
that play a
moment
role, and there are
spent
psychological and
with
social
you
things. People can develop
is a moment
mental
of
disorders, like the
treasure
brain disorder type
forever
of
and
thing,
ever.
from
I
prolonged
don't wanna
trauma,
close my
or
eyes.
social adversity in childhood, or loneliness and disconnection. And that those things also contribute to mental illness. But exactly how do they come together? Right now, the leading people will say, no one knows, it's too complicated. The way that I came to metabolism is because I had some really important kind of pieces of information that were quite shocking. That I was actually using dietary strategies, pure serendipity. I did not set out to do anything special, but I was changing people's diets to help them lose weight and noticing dramatic improvement in psychotic symptoms and mood symptoms and other symptoms.
So, okay, so you came at this, you started to understand this because you started to examine diet, and you were examining diet why exactly? What was, just to help people lose weight?
This will take me on a tangent from the question that I'm going to come back to. You asked me a question, and I'm going to come back to it. But this tangent is that I had this patient with schizoaffective disorder. He had been my patient for 8 years. Schizoaffective disorder is crossed between schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. This man was tormented and disabled by his illness. He had chronic hallucinations, delusions. He was paranoid. He was convinced that everybody in the world was out to get him. People were laughing at him, spying on him, trying to hurt him. He had tried 17 different medications. None of them helped his symptoms. He had gained a massive amount of weight and asked for my help to lose weight. And I put him on a ketogenic diet to try to help him lose weight. And within 2 weeks, not only was he starting to lose weight, but I began to notice this powerful antidepressant effect in him. And the shocking thing that led me ultimately on this path was that about 2 months in, so it doesn't happen overnight. But about 2 months in, he starts spontaneously reporting that his hallucinations and delusions are starting to go away. That man went on to lose over 160 pounds, has kept it off to this day, 7 years later. He was able to do things he hadn't been able to do since the time of his diagnosis. He was able to go out in public and not be paranoid. He was able to complete a certificate program. He was able to perform improv in front of a live audience.
Wow.
He
Wow.
teaches karate. Now, he was able to do things that were all but impossible for him and somebody with his diagnosis. And that, initially, I was just in disbelief. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I'm thinking that this can't be happening. Schizoaffective disorder doesn't get better, and it certainly doesn't get better from a change in diet. What on earth is happening? So I initially set out on a journey to understand what on earth is the ketogenic diet doing. And I was quickly led to its use in neurology. So although a lot of people know the ketogenic diet as a fad diet or a weight loss diet, it's actually a 100-year-old evidence-based treatment for epilepsy. And it can stop seizures even when medications fail to stop seizures. And the reason that's so important to me as a psychiatrist is because we use epilepsy treatments in psychiatry every day in tens of millions of people. We use pills that were originally designed to stop seizures, and we use them for a wide range of mental disorders, including depression, anxiety, alcoholism, dementia, and schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and others. And so initially that was a really important connection because I thought, well, maybe that's why this diet is changing his brain symptoms, is whatever it's doing to stop seizures, maybe that those same processes are also reducing his psychotic symptoms.
Like reducing excess neural activity, for example. Because you could imagine that delusional state is I'm not saying this is the case, but you can imagine that it is the case, that it is a
It's
consequence,
2:39
of
a.m.
excess neural activity.
Still not
Now,
done
too
with
much
this.
neural activity, you're going to get the electrical storm that
I don't
characterizes
know how to
epilepsy, but you
proceed.
can imagine
This
that a
one
man could be in a
giving me hard
psychophysiological,
time. Need to
neurophysiological
message
condition
my.
where the spread of ideas around the core ideas too
Need to
rapid
message
and too wide.
support.
And it,
Need
a
support.
delusion
Support.
certainly looks like that to some degree, especially
Oh,
paranoid
tomorrow I
delusions. You can see that
have
to some degree in depression,
1,
because
2, 3, 4,
in depression,
5,
one sad
6
idea will trigger an
lessons.
avalanche of
Okay.
sad ideas.
Thank you.
So, well, just a thought
good,
with
good.
regard to the potential overlap with epilepsy. Okay, so you started looking at the dramatic, as you pointed out, dramatic effects of ketogenic diets on epilepsy treatment, and started to think,
Okay.
if
1,
that,
2, 3,
given that dramatic effect on
okay.
brain states exists, which is clearly documented, right, and
4,
no one
5,
disputes it,
after.
that there's no reason to assume that there couldn't be more subtle but still important
okay.
effects of dietary transformation. And then you became partly convinced of that as
Better
well because
than
of
nothing.
the story you tell of that one client. And that's a ridiculously dramatic story, because schizoaffective personality disorders are notoriously difficult to treat. Schizoaffective disorder is a complete
Now
bloody
close
catastrophe
my.
because it has all of the aspects of personality disorder that produce social alienation, plus all the intense suffering that characterizes the whole hallucinatory nightmare of delusion. So it's a very, very serious.
Bye guys, I'm gonna end this live now because I'm live for 35 minutes.
Not only on the weight side, which
Thank
is
you
dramatic
everyone for
enough
watching
and
this
unlikely enough,
live
given that
video.
most people never lose their weight, right?
Bye
They'll lose
bye,
it
have
for
a
time,
good
but they
day
gain it back
everyone.
more. And also
Thanks for
the
watching.
cessation of the symptoms. And
Till
also,
next
this
time.
makes it even more complex because it took 2 months. This